Chris, a big Chelsea fan. Chris, good morning. How concerned
Hi,
are you?
guys.
Morning, Chris.
Thanks for taking my call. Great show as always. Whenever Chelsea's mentioned, like the show this morning, I think you need to play the Benny Hill music. Before they spoke to Jason Monday, they played it. It's just a joke. I've never been more despondent. I mean, we have been spoiled as Chelsea fans over 20 years. I'll take that. But, you know, the Russia-Ukraine conflict happened. Abramovich gets ousted out. Tuchel ultimately leaves. And we were right in the mix. You know, if you look at who was going to compete with the juggernaut that is Man City, we were one of those teams. And you look at us now, you can't sell 20 players. I've never seen a club sell 20 players in the summer and bring 20 players in, a lot of them young players that have never played in them. It's almost disrespectful to the league to think that you can get away with that. And Pochettino ultimately is a former Spurs manager, and if he up in a few more bad results, the Chelsea fans, I guarantee it, they will turn on him. And a point to Simon, you mentioned it's Todd Boehly's money. Is he not a steward of the club? Is that money, that expenditure, not against us from a financial fair play point of view? And I don't think it is his money. God forbid we did get relegated. It would be a disaster.
Can you believe you're even speaking in those terms, Chris?
No, I don't even know. My friends are literally loving this. I'm going through hell at the moment. But I can't believe. I mean, the back.
Well, you're not going to get relegated. You're not going to get relegated, are you, Chris? Get some context in the conversation. You're not going to get Luton, Burnley, and Sheffield United. You're going to overcome those, aren't you? Worst case scenario.
It's just, but when Abramovich left, it was all the back. It was all the people you don't see or hear of. They all left as well. And
Bruce Buck was a big influence on what players you bought. Leave off.
No, he wasn't. But in terms of the way the club was run behind the scenes, I just feel like it's a toy in a boy in a toy store.
Yeah.
He's running it. He is not. Simon, when you were chairman of Palace, would you have? I mean, you wouldn't have even. You've got to balance the books. You can't spend that kind of money, and if you do. You know, we were linked with Vlahovic from Juventus. Now, that's the kind of person you go out and spend 100
Let's not
million
worry
on.
About balancing the books, because that's Bowley's concerns, right? And that's Bowley's 8-year contracts and all that sort of stuff, right? What you're more worried about is the team's performance. It's not about that. That's his job, and if financial fair play problems come your way, then you'll have to contend with them, however they drop.
I think I've got to start worrying about not winning.
Yeah, but they're not going to get. It's a silly characterisation to suggest Chelsea are going to get relegated, because they're not.
But look at the messages coming in from Chelsea. James claims to be an Arsenal fan, actually, but he says Chelsea could have had Kane, Bellingham, Mbappe, Gvardiol, Raya, and still had change from a bill. They've got a worse team now, and anyone that's come in, they put them in 8-year contracts. What are they doing? I'm inclined to agree with you. Nick, big Chelsea fan. Where'd you stand in it, Nick?
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Good morning. Okay, what about yourself?
Well, first, I'm fine, thank you. First of all, the most important thing is I'm glad Simon is in good health and on good form. Great to hear that.
Very kind, Nick. Thank you very much.
No, you're welcome. I have to agree with virtually everything that's been said this morning. I've supported the club for well over 50 years, and yeah, I mean, I've been supporting them that long. A successful season is first and foremost get the 40 points, get over the line. We're not going to fix this quickly, but I completely agree with Simon that we bought all these players. There's some, excuse my language, bloody good players in that team that should be performing better, and that's down to the coach. I used to work in senior management. It's down to you to get the best out of what you've got, and what he's got, there's a fabulous group of players. The only thing I would say is that would it made a bit more sense to keep a few more of the senior players, maybe till January, like Kante and a few others, to hang around, and Azpilicueta, so that there's that experience in the training room and that experience of the Premiership to be there. But come on, guys, get on the pitch. Pochettino, have some proper tactics, play some decent football. I agree with Simon. I don't think we're going to get relegated. I don't think we're going to finish top 4. For me, I just want to see this turned around, and lots of excuses out there. Let's get the ball in the back of the net. Let's start winning a few
Exactly.
games.
Let's start winning games. Okay, Nick, thank you for that. Martin, to some extent, has Pochettino been given a pretty impossible task? Here's a bunch of players, most of whom don't know each other. We've got no leaders, I was at Brighton yesterday, Martin. One of the Brighton fans was saying to me, we've got leaders in the pitch. Look at that. We've got Webster. We've got Dunk. Lallana's in the sidelines. We've got so many different leaders. I don't see a leader in Chelsea. So all of a sudden, all these players are thrown at Pochettino. There you go. We've spent $1 billion. Make that work.
Well, that's his job. He has to make it work. This is the whole point. It's not an impossible task. I think that there's not a manager in the world, in the universe, that wouldn't want £400 million to spend on players. So it doesn't really matter. And you must have had some sort of say in that. Surely to heavens, as a manager, even though players have been bought by CEOs who have no responsibility, or certainly don't have to worry too much about it if the results don't go their way. But what I'm saying to you is that the manager, it is his responsibilities for him to work with players and actually get the very, very best out of them. So no, it's not an impossible task at all. It's a very envious task to have that facility of that type of money to spend on players that you would expect. Listen, I'm getting to a stage now where I'm concerned about a player who's cost 35 million to see whether he can actually trap the ball or not. So I really do worry about it. I think if you're 85 million pounds player, I think you should be able to go past someone now and again, in the game. So this is my whole point. I don't think it's an impossible task at all. I think that, and it's a task that you would want. You would relish actually working with players that you think, hey, wait a minute, we've got a chance. They're young. If that's the case, okay, they might not have had phenomenal experience, but at the end of the day,
do you see much Premier League know-how though? The component parts to all of this are ridiculous, Simon.
Oh, I don't know. There's a fair amount of knowledge in that side.
But the
football is football, and
parts
Hurling comes in to play football, and he plays in a decent side. But the bottom line is, there's plenty of knowledge out there, both on the bench and on the pitch. Like I said in the break in the facetious comments, Chelsea are, Brighton managed to turn £4.5 million footballers into £100 million footballers, and Chelsea are turning £100 million football back into a £4.5 million one, and that has to do with coaching. But if you look at the experience on the pitch, you've got World Cup winners in Fernandes that lots of people wanted to buy. You've got Conor Gallagher that's played nearly up to 100 games in the Premier League. You've got Raheem Sterling that's played for Premier League champions on numerous seasons. You've got players like Colwill that people rated and think they should be in the England side. You've got Sanchez that's played enough games in Brentford to know his way around. Okay, and then amongst that, you've got Moises Caicedo that everyone wanted and looked at and said, okay. Yeah. So we've got plenty of experience there. What you haven't got at the moment in time isn't a bit... if you're going to have the amount of chances that Chelsea have had, myself and Martin will go back a second to the point of not enjoying watching Chelsea and not particularly good side. But my word, have they had some chances in recent games. They've had chances against them, of course. Yeah. But notwithstanding that, they've had chances and chances and chances and chances, and they haven't got somebody to put the ball in the back of the net. And we can all go on about Jackson being a trier, but there comes a point where he's got to try to put the ball in the back of the net.
Okay. Well, they've got Brighton in the Carabao Cup. We'll see how that goes. Then a week tonight, they're at Craven Cottage. And we'll see how that goes.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.